There we go. All right, guys, it's gonna be pretty chill episode today. I'm actually sick, and so I've got my homeboy Kevin, man, myth legend.
Hello.
Um, this is episode 99. We got him drinking a white monster.
Yes, sir.
The power of the beast surges within. We're gonna do some reaction videos because Kevin's gonna post this on his YouTube channel
Oh,
or
right.
his your
I
what
will.
channel?
My what?
Your
I'll post it on my YouTube.
What's that one video site that you were thinking about?
TikTok.
No, it's the other one. It's like
Oh, Rumble.
Rumble. Yeah.
That's where we need to be with the controversial shit we talk about.
So yeah, we're gonna do some reaction videos today. And hopefully this will be good content for the listeners. We'll see because you might not be able to like see everything. Although I could post a video. We'll see because I'm sure at times we might just be talking and then that stuff I can kind of just throw in there. So
So we'll be reacting to what is it? New movie trailers and popular show trailers.
and possibly some cringe vids. Uh, you want to watch the official teaser or the full trailer of Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Why is the teaser longer? Let's do the full trailer. Or we can do no, we can do both and do the teaser first if you want to.
Hold on, let me just make sure that share sound. There we go. Should work.
This camera is capturing my good angle today. Usually it doesn't do that.
Dude, the camera always captures a good angle. Um, do this Avatar: Last Airbender.
Is
Am I
this?
sharing the screen? Yeah, I am. I wonder
Yeah,
if
yeah, I can see it.
over here. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah,
Is it still YouTube?
yeah.
Sweet.
So is this a movie or is it a show?
It's gonna be a TV show, the live
Balance
action.
That
is what we believe in. The Fire Nation
Can you hear it?
does not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Aang, I know you're just a kid still. But you were born with a great purpose. What's to come is destruction and loss. You will have to stay united and strong to endure it.
Oh, Sokka.
So there's only one way to keep the balance straight.
Whoa.
Always remember who you are. The Last Airbender.
Dang.
Shit.
Okay, that looks way better than the live action they released years ago.
Dude, that
And
live action that
Aang,
they released years ago was fucking shit. It was
it was
terrible.
horrid. And it looks like Aang is actually Asian this time and not some random white kid
Yeah,
like
they
in the
made the whole
original.
well, well, in this they're like actually making like the whole cast is Asian.
Good. Well, it looked like the Water Tribe was all white guys for some reason. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think they look more like Eskimo kind of deal.
Oh, that makes sense.
So, because
The casting looks way better. And I mean, the graphics were really good too. I mean, the graphics for the movie weren't bad. Just everything else was horrible.
yeah,
I think I actually might tune
I don't think I ever even finished the movie.
it.
So
Oh my God. I didn't even watch like the Avatar TV show, but I I could tell that whatever that movie was infuriating to the people who did watch that show.
oh wait, you
But
never
this
watched
actually
the
looks
TV
good.
show?
I watched some and I don't know
Bro,
why I never did. It was
dude.
on it was on Nickelodeon, wasn't it? Like originally?
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason like I didn't have Nickelodeon for a long time. I just had Disney Channel.
Wow. Yeah, no, it was yeah, Avatar Last Airbender was probably one of the most influential TV shows in my life. And I think it's
Yeah.
honestly probably the reason why the Eastern philosophies were so attractive to me or so attractive to me growing up.
Oh, definitely. I've heard a lot of people actually like cite Avatar as being like their first introduction to like Eastern thought. And I remember seeing a video posted on the internet that went viral a while ago. That was it was just Ong or Aang getting the sort of explanation of the chakra system and like unblocking them, and it became just like a viral short of having um that one scene from the TV show. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's just that there's so much in it. And there is something that I wanted to share. I mentioned this on an episode I did with Jamal a few weeks back. And in Avatar Last Airbender, Aang has to defeat the Fire Lord. And he can talk to his past lives, and his past lives are like previous avatars, basically. And he'll be talking to them, and then he's asking them, hey, how do I defeat the Fire Lord? And then most of them are basically telling him, like, hey, you got to kill him. Sorry.
Oh,
But Aang is strictly against killing. And
really?
as an airbender, he's not he was taught to not kill, and then it's bad for his spirituality. So what happens is he's speaking to one of the former avatars who was an airbender, and she tells him, Aang, I understand that it's a part of your spirituality to not kill. However, as the avatar, your duties to this world transcend your duties to your own spiritual needs.
Oh, I like that.
So it's kind of
That's
like it brings it back like, hey, yeah, like you can go get enlightened, but um your duties to the world are more important than your own
personal.
feeling that you need to get enlightened or whatever.
Yeah, no, I like that. It kind of reminds me of this argument that I heard against veganism, which is like a vegan person might feel like self-righteous because they're not eating animals or using animal leather, but the people who farm the tofu fields or whatever, they have to they obviously have to kill the rodents that go through the tofu field. They have to
Yeah.
like kill all of the ants or whatever. But it's great that you get to feel like you're not
Yeah.
contributing. You just have to buy the tofu at the store. And they kind of feel like
Yeah.
exonerated from being responsible, even you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
and and I've personally always been well, I have never been able to come up with a clear justification to myself of what I would do in a situation where someone violently attacked me. Like, I mean, obviously, I would fight back, but I mean, in the case that the only way to protect myself would be to kill the other person. um, I don't know what I would do. For that same reason, I'd be like, is it like what's more worth it, like saving my life, or would it even like corrupt me to kill this person in this situation, or is it perfectly justifiable to like kill a person to save yourself? That's like one of the main things I've always struggled with my whole life, is like either it's like wrong across the board, or it's more like case by case. But then when you say it's case by case, it kind of opens up a can of worms of like, okay, well, when's it okay then? When's it not?
No, and that's some wisdom that I got from one of my dad's friends. He was saying how he has a shotgun in his house and a big security system. And I was asking him, like, what do you do if someone, in, like came to his house? And I was like, would you shoot him? And he's like, oh, Greg, it takes a lot to pull the trigger on a man. Well, what I would do is go to my escape room with a shotgun, lock the door, and call the cops. And if it comes down to it, if I absolutely needed to, I would shoot him. Right.
Yeah, that's a good response. I once heard someone put it this way, like if someone was robbing them or breaking into their house, them killing the other person is them protecting the other person from harming their own soul, because you're not
Wait,
allowing. So by
hey,
you, so someone is wanting to commit a violent crime against you,
yeah.
to take something you have or whatever out of malice. By you protecting yourself and like getting rid of them, you are protecting them from committing a crime, like from corrupting their own soul. I heard that once. I
I
can't
think
remember
that's
where, but I
definitely a backwards argument.
yeah, it
Um,
is. Cause I'm like, well, should my job be to protect someone else's corrupted soul by corrupting my own?
yeah, then it's like, oh yeah, no. You see, guys, the reason why the United States invades Afghanistan and the Middle East is so that we can protect them from harming their own
Yeah,
souls.
from harming. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I I kind of like remember being like, okay, that's a good way to look at it in the case that I need to justify to myself why I'm gonna off someone if they're like breaking into my house. But the it was a bad anyway.
Well, there's another thing that I was told. My uncle told me, Greg, don't ever get into a fight with someone unless you need to kill them.
Wait,
Like, there's absolutely no, like, you don't need to fight someone unless you're fighting for your life,
yeah, that's true.
is what he's
I'm
basically
just trying to
saying.
think of like some guy coming at you at a bar fight though. I guess you could just be like, okay, no, we're not doing this. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't fully agree with what he was saying. I think there was some faulty wisdom there.
Yeah.
But then he was
Because I feel
like,
like,
sorry, go ahead.
because if anything, it's like it would be better to get in a fight that hopefully prevents the loss of life in the end.
Yeah. No, I agree. Because, well, I think what he actually said to me was, like, when you're in a fight, you're fighting to kill. And I'm like, what? I'm
I mean, I
like,
get the
what?
yeah, I
I'm
understand, but
like, okay. So like,
it's kind
I think what he meant was like go all in kind of a deal.
yeah, right. It reminds me of like the Karate Kid with Jaden Smith, which I just watched again recently.
Yeah.
Like the no mercy, no holding back mindset.
Yeah, but I think that's wrong. I think you should fight to take away their power to kill you or hurt anyone
I,
else.
yeah, I like that. You're taking
And that's
away.
also that brings us back to Aang the Last Airbender, because when he finally defeats the Fire Lord, what he does instead of killing him is he finds out how to take his bending away from him, so he can't ever hurt anyone else ever again.
I like that. Dang. Oh, I need to just go and watch it all the way through sometime. I've watched
You'll binge it.
I think I've watched one season of Legend of Korra just because a friend was playing it.
Oh,
And
terrible.
yeah, I was like, there was like a part in
It's
there.
the worst.
Yeah, I didn't like it that much. So I'm sure The Last Airbender will be better. Now we need to watch the trailer for Arcane, which
Okay.
obviously I play the video game, so I'm a little biased, but this Arcane was I think the only animated Netflix series to get nominated for and win a Grammy, multiple Grammys, I think. And people, when I was introducing it to friends, even though they weren't aware of the game, they all loved it and were introducing it to other people. It was just one of the best um series I've seen in a long time. So we'll see what you think if the trailer shows us anything.
Yeah, let me just make sure that. All right, we're sharing sound. Sweet.
When I was a kid, me and my sister, we played a game where we pretended to chase monsters away. I'd say, no monster's gonna get you when I'm here. Then a real monster showed up. I have to find her.
The world's growing smaller every day. Up there on the surface, the topsiders are leaving the undercity further behind.
I believe I've discovered something incredible. A way to harness magic through science.
You don't understand what's at stake.
Power doesn't come to those who are born strongest. It comes to those who will do anything to achieve it.
Ooh.
Imagining yourself a hero. Then what are you waiting for?
More lives may be lost. The Undercity cannot be controlled.
Then we have to go in by force.
What have you done with my sister?
I'll give her your regards.
This cycle of violence will never stop. She's too far gone.
I have to try.
You've got a good heart. Don't ever lose it. Protect the family.
Are we still sisters?
Nothing is ever going to change that.
So that was the trailer for Arcane. What were your first impressions?
Well, so this is based off of League of Legends.
The characters are all from League of Legends. But it's kind of complicated because the League of Legends is an arena game with like
Yeah.
hundreds of champions, and this just focuses on a few characters from the game and their backstories.
Wow.
But a lot of people, I've been watching video analyses of the characters, and people have been saying that each character, like Arcane is an example of how to write a character, because and how to write like females in strong roles, how to write
Yeah.
how to write like a strong female character while also like without resulting to tropes that we're seeing in a lot of modern media where they 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 intentionally will make, for example, like male characters look weaker in order to like
Yeah.
pedestalize a female character, um, or vice versa. They'll make a female like a damsel in distress in order to make the male hero look more uh powerful,
Yeah.
and or just like simple tropes like where there's just like an obvious evil guy and he's just bad and he doesn't really have like a
Yeah.
good thing. Each character in this, it's like you can't decide first of all which character is your favorite and like who you like really hate, because each one of them has like really justifiable reasons for being the way that they are, and their whole character arc is each pretty amazing to watch. Um, so I definitely recommend that if you're ever looking for something to watch. It's pretty adult, I would say. It looks like a
Yeah.
cartoon for like maybe childish in a way, but it also explores a lot
It's
of,
an adult cartoon, you mean?
yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely explores a lot of the things that we are like sort of tackling with as a society here in the US at least, with like the divide between the rich and the poor. That's one of the main themes. Uh, police brutality, um, and drug lords, and how they kind of get a handle on the weak and vulnerable of a society. And so, if you were to say like a war on drugs, you're harming the people who are already being
Yeah.
taken advantage by. So there's like just a lot of different aspects of this show that are just so interesting from like a, I guess, a story and character perspective.
And they're kind of like prophetic in a way of the modern day problems in society.
Definitely. Well, and also it tackles mental health, like in psychosis, and how
Yeah.
these these like larger societal issues also manifest on an individual level, because like when you are a product of a pretty broken system, like you might have some mental health challenges and it's not even your fault. Um, so yeah, it just tackles so much, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who has time.
Well, I wanted to kind of go back to like writing a strong female character. Um, because I
You
think a
did?
lot of time,
Oh,
no, I want to like with how in Arcane they write a good strong female character, right? Um, and I just wanted to say, yeah, I mean we are seeing in modern day where this strong female character is a lot of times it's like this very narcissistic woman that doesn't need love, they don't need no man, right? Um, and it's like, okay, it's like it's kind of it's like by giving the woman masculine traits, that's supposed to make them strong. Uh, whereas, well, hey, shouldn't there be like, shouldn't their feminine traits be the thing that make them strong because they're a woman? You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
That's what
because
we
by
could,
saying that, you're like making it seem like men and masculine traits are stronger than female traits. So get rid of your feminine traits and replace them with masculine traits, and then you'll be strong. But
yep,
in reality, that's actually against the feminist movement, because your feminine traits should be what make you a strong woman, I
right.
guess, right?
It's it's like a corruption of an ideal, I feel like, because
Yeah,
I mean, I know this is a controversial topic, and many people will say it's like it's it it could be misogynistic to say, oh, like women need to be in like a feminine role, but that's not what.
yeah. I mean, that's not what we're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because like women should be in positions of power and
yeah,
status, but if you look at the most influential woman around, like to society. They're the ones who like emanate their like natural characteristics to a
Yeah.
degree, like their femininity is just powerful. And I've never had
Yeah.
um I've been called out for like saying that I believe femininity is so powerful that I don't understand this weird push to like that a woman is only powerful if they embody traits that are traditionally considered masculine. But my counter to that was that I just had such a strong female role model in my life, being my
Hmm.
mom, that
Yeah, same.
I never considered femininity um
Weakness.
a weakness ever in my life. In fact, I
Yeah.
considered masculinity a weakness to a certain degree because I saw how people who are really, really, really in their masculine have they can have trouble with certain things, like anger and communication and
Yeah.
whatever. So if anything, I always like idolized the feminine to a certain degree. So it's not to say that people aren't super unique and can manifest all these different traits in different ways. But as far as Arcane, I'm glad they went this route instead of going trying to follow the footsteps of a lot of the media today. Because what they've done, I'll use Captain Marvel as an example of this, is someone pointed out that in order to sort of give these strong female leads, in order to make them a hero, they think that they have to make them invincible too. But
Yeah.
nobody likes an invincible hero. And we saw in Captain Marvel how
Or even
she,
Superman, right? Like
yeah,
I hate
I
Superman.
never, I
He
always
sucks.
hated Superman. I never was interested in any of the movies because who, like, I understand he has the weakness of kryptonite, but I just was sort of bored of his, like, he could do everything. He could fly, he
Yeah.
had super strength, he had lasers. I was like, okay, what what's his gig, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and the mistake and the error that they made with Captain Marvel is in the film, which I never saw. I just watched the clips. She never took um a punch. She was never beaten once. Where a big process of like character growth in the heroic journey is that to make the character more relatable, you show their journey from being like rock bottom, getting their ass handed to them, and seeing
Yeah.
how they
Like
handle
Kill
that.
Bill.
Like
It's
Kill
like
Bill.
Kill
Oh,
Bill is that's the strongest female character ever written.
literally. And she is like, she's literally has her ass handed to her. She's buried alive.
Gets
Uh,
fucking raped while she's in the hospital bed.
yeah, Jesus. Yeah,
Gets
exactly.
fucking beaten up, and then
Hmm.
she just goes and kills like 100 people with the samurai sword.
Hmm.
It's a
Well,
fucking giant ass like ninja fight.
this video will just be about strong female leads done correctly. Another example of a strong female lead that they did right, in my opinion, was in the Resident Evil series, like the live
Okay.
action movies with Alice. Did you ever watch those?
No, I didn't.
She, I mean, she was the main character, and I mean, they definitely did not stray away from like showing her get beaten like many times and showing her journey from just being, she had an actual hero's journey, and it was believable toward the end of the films when she was just like more sophisticated with like her combat because you've seen like all that the journey she had to go through.
Because like people want to see some kind of adversity.
Yeah,
And that's part
exactly.
of the reason why I think a lot of people like Batman a lot more than like other superheroes because he doesn't have any superpowers,
Right.
right? And like most of it, like, and he actually uses his extreme skill in combat to like take down enemies and also his like smarts. And sure, he's a billionaire, but he's a billionaire with a life that was rough, right? Like his parents were shot down. and then he's kind of like on this pedestal, you know?
I wonder, I've kind of always wondered what they were. I'm sure there's been analysis after analysis of
Yeah.
Batman as like a character. And I mean, he's like this super rich billionaire, like happy guy, influential man on the outside, but he like lacks that meaning and purpose. And so he goes on this whole inner journey and like what he actually wants.
Yep.
And he's someone that doesn't have to take any risk at all if he doesn't want to. He could use his money if he wanted to um to just like solve problems, but instead he himself goes into like the danger. So it's kind of showing his heroicism because he's not forced into these situations really at all.
Yeah.
He's choosing to sort of
He has
sacrifice.
so much freedom of choice with all the money that he has, but he chooses willingly to put his life at risk every night, like fighting bad guys and just being the fucking pulp out of them.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, no, I liked Batman. I've always had a thing for anti-heroes. I was just talking
Yeah.
to someone about
Yep.
this in movies. And an anti-hero, I don't know, I forget what the actual definition is.
We can look it up just for shits and giggles.
But
We can throw the
did you ever watch the X-Men movies? The original three? And
yeah.
of course the Taylor Swift song comes up. So let's see, what's an anti-hero?
Spelled anti-hero or anti-heroine. Is the main character in a story who may lack some conventional heroic qualities and attributes such as idealism, courage, and morality. Although anti-heroes may sometimes perform actions that most of the audience considers morally correct, their reasons for doing so may not align with the audience's morality. An anti-hero typically exhibits one of the dark triad personality traits, which includes narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism.
So one of the most famous anti-heroes that is like a lot of people's favorite would be Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Because he does a lot of things that are morally questionable and he's usually out for his own gain and then sometimes chooses the action that sort of sacrifices his own narcissistic like motives. And Jack Sparrow would be considered a narcissist on the dark triad like column. But my favorite one growing up was Mystique from X-Men. I liked how X-Men the bad mutants and the good mutants, they each were sort of justified in their fight toward people who hated them. They just chose different paths, with Magneto representing, because the X-Men is basically a metaphor for the civil rights movement and also the LGBT rights movement of like the 60s or 70s, where you had Malcolm X and then you had Martin Luther King. So Magneto represents Malcolm X and his more like militant pushback.
Yeah.
And then Charles Xavier represents Martin Luther King's approach toward peaceful protest, assimilation, stuff like that. But Mystique was always my favorite because, I mean, she was badass as hell, but she had morally questionable things, but she ends up doing the right thing at key moments of the story.
Oh, I see. Mystique.
I was gonna say
that was your favorite character.
Yeah, and I ended up gay somehow. I don't know how that happened. That's funny. I kind of just figured you already knew what she looked like, but
well, I was trying to think like which one's Mystique. And then I'm like, oh. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, the one who's basically naked the whole time. I see.
Yeah. I liked her whole thing as being like a shapeshifter. I feel like
No, I do
I
think that
kind
she's like a really cool character.
mhm.
Um,
I liked there was this one scene that impacted me a lot as a kid for whatever reason, and I would just like go on YouTube and watch it over and over. And it was the scene where someone goes up to Mystique and asks and says, "You can be anyone, and you can pretend to be anyone you want. So why not just um pretend to be a human all the time or something like that?" And she just says, we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to do that. So she has the ability to live a normal life, to pretend like to shapeshift into just looking like a normal human if she wanted to. And she still chooses to fight for her cause. And that's what I really liked about that scene in her character.
well, I try to find that scene on YouTube.
Nightcrawler and Mystique is the scene. I can try to find it.
Nightcrawler and Mystique
Why not be a human
scene.
all the time? Here it is. Can I link it on Zoom?
Yeah, is it just X-Men 2 United Nightcrawler and Mystique's conversation?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
33 seconds.
Hmm.
Okay. Sweet.
Excuse me. They say you can imitate anybody. Even their voice. Even their voice. Then why not stay in disguise all the time? You know? Look like everyone else.
Because we shouldn't have to.
It's funny because
Damn.
those two characters were my all-time favorite uh like supervillain of all time, Nightcrawler and Mystique. I I liked Nightcrawler because he was a demon. His power was to teleport, but to teleport he goes to hell, the hell realm, and then teleports that way to another location.
Nightcrawler.
Hmm.
That's
But
what
the
crawl
his
through the night. Right? The night being
mhm.
hell.
That the irony of his character though is he's a Catholic, and I was raised Catholic, and he was really religious, so all of the markings on his body were for every sin he committed. And so I just liked his character because of like the sort of irony of him being literally the son of a demon, and he goes to hell to use his powers, but he sort of still
He's Catholic.
keeps his faith. I just liked his little
Well,
character.
it's also kind of that's kind of reminds me of um what the Book of Job. Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called. I forget what exactly.
Bible. Should we look it up?
Yeah, I forget like the story of Job. I
The
think
Book
is Job the one that's told
Job.
like not to look back, Job's wife, or
I
else
guess
she'll be
it's
turned into a
Job.
pillar.
Book of Job. In the land of Uz, there lived a man whose name was Job. Here,
Is that how it starts?
I guess. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owed 7,000 sheep,
That's a lot.
3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys, and had a large number of servants. He was greatest man among all the people of the East. His sons used to hold feasts in their homes and on their birthdays, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the morning, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular custom. One day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord and Satan. Oh, before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." "Does Job fear God for nothing?" Satan replied. "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. One day, when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the older brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabines attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, "Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the older brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed to them, and they are dead, and I am the only one who escaped to tell you." At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground and worshipped and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing.
I remember. Yeah. So Satan just tries all these things to prove to God that Job will turn his back on God once he loses everything, and that he only has faith because of how
Because
blessed
his
he
life is
was in his
good.
life. But I think,
Yeah.
if I remember right, Job proves Satan wrong.
Yeah, and I think what
Yeah.
happens after that, I'm pretty sure, is that like he gets all of his stuff back from God.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, like the point is, there is a certain irony there, right? Where you might be like a devout Catholic worshiper, but you get your powers from hell.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
right. But at the same time, there's like a metaphor there where I don't know if you've heard the metaphor where like in order for a tree to grow to heaven, its roots must be planted in hell.
Yup. No, I isn't that Carl Jung's quote?
I'm not sure. Uh,
I'm like 70% certain
order
that's from
for
Carl
a
Jung.
tree to grow to heaven, its roots must be planted in hell.
There
No
it is.
tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Yep, it's Young.
We love him.
Yep. Praise Young. Praise Young.
Praise Young. Praise Young.
Lord Young. Lord Young. I praise you.
This video
Yeah,
is so random because we went from Avatar to Arcane to X-Men
the Book of Job.
to the Book of Job. We
Dude,
didn't
I
really have
have what?
what? We didn't have a system for this video.
Kevin, you have four reaction videos you can choose from now.
What's oh, for to put one up.
Yeah.
What we should do is we should do our own interpretations of Bible quotes. So we
Oh
take
yeah.
10 famous like Bible quotes, and we come up with what we think the interpretation is. Like,
Yeah, I got my
using,
holy Bible right here, bro.
do you? I have one. It's like
Dude, I've
a
actually
small.
been reading it and it's on like Honestly, I've been like my whole life. I've been like, I'm never reading the fucking Bible. Fucking
Do you
God,
like it?
not fucking. Yeah, dude.
It's, I mean, here's the thing that uh I guess people who aren't Christian or just I guess like whatever, they they shit on it a lot, but you have
Yeah,
to basically admit that it's really complex. It tells
yeah. And there's
it
so
tells a
much you can
narrative.
get from it because you like it doesn't even tell a narrative because it's kind of like a Rorschach test because of how
It is a
cryptic it
Rorschach
is.
test. And
Um,
and I mean that's kind of like a criticism of it, of like if it
yeah,
was so like divinely inspired and the instructions were clear, there wouldn't be so many different denominations, because obviously it wasn't clear enough if there's like 40,000 different interpretations of the material. But um I
yeah.
think,
But like God doesn't speak in words. At least
yeah,
in,
that's
in my
true.
opinion. Like,
I think the
um,
narratives definitely moved humanity forward to a certain extent.
yeah. Well, my favorite line is in Genesis. It's just like it's not even the meaning behind it. I just love the line. It just sounds good. He's telling Adam after he ate the tree from the knowledge of good and evil. He says, "By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. For you are dust, and to dust you shall return."
I like that one.
Fuck,
Yeah.
that's good.
My I think my all-time favorite one is the part where they're gonna stone Jesus, and Jesus's sort of reply to them. I always forget which book that is though.
We'll just
Jesus.
say Jesus reply to people stoning. Oh, was this like they know not what they do?
No,
He who
that's
has
not
not
it.
sinned, let him take a stone and throw it. Wait.
It's a part of that. What section is that? It doesn't even say that.
Um, he that
Hold
is
on.
without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her.
Stone me. I'll find it. Oh,
While they were stoning him,
It's John 10:32, the one that I'm looking for.
John 10:32. Oh, I'm still sharing my screen, huh?
Yeah, that's fine.
From the Father, for which of these do you stone me? What does that mean?
Is there one website that just shows like literally the the whole thing?
I have shown you many good works from the Father, for which of these do you stone me? We are not stoning you for any good work, they replied, but for blasphemy, because you, a mere man, claim to be God. Jesus answered them, it is not written in your law. I have said, you are gods. Ooh,
That's my favorite quote, and I think it's that quote that I believe uh many Christians are either just not aware of, or they interpret it away, because when you read the full section of the context of this quote, they're stoning him not because of all of the miracles he's done, but because he's claiming to be God. And his
yeah.
reply in that same context is, "You are gods." And I've mentioned this to Christians before, and they'll say, "Oh, by gods they meant like you are like the lords of the land or whatever." But I'm like, no, it says gods there, and it's gods in the same context that they're stoning him for, claiming to be God. So I think, in my opinion, one of the greatest misinterpretations of Jesus is they think that he exalted himself to divinity when he was trying
Yeah.
to explain that everyone was divine. That's my 2 cents.
Well, and I'm looking at the yeah, I'm sure like I mean, I'm sure if you like read all this very carefully, you'd see a lot of similarities with Buddhist thought. And even here, it's actually I kind of want to see if there's a music video for this. Turtles all the way down. Sturgill Simpson.
You're such a good listener, Thomas. It makes me feel so special.
You are special. If you don't mind, if you could just.
Oh,
This
Thomas.
I don't know what this is.
I've seen Jesus play with flames in
The
the
lake of fire.
I was standing in. Met the devil in Seattle. Spent 9 months inside the lion's den. Met Buddha yet another time. He showed me a glowing light within. But I swear to God, every time I look into the eyes of my best friend, says my son, it's all been done. Someday you're gonna wake up old and gray. Go and try and have some fun, showing warmth to everyone. Meet and greet, cheat along the way. There's a gateway in our minds that leads somewhere out there, far beyond this plane.
All right, well, you kind of get the point. But basically what he's saying here is like, hey, like, like I've seen Jesus, I've seen Buddha, but I swear that God is there every time I look into the eyes of my best friend.
Something I stumbled on recently, which kind of blew my mind, is so in Buddhism, a lot of people think that the Buddha was talking about this concept of no self, that there's no self. And I was talking with our friend Fletcher, because he's pretty Buddhist, or and and I kind of say the difference between him and I is the difference between Hinduism and Buddhism, where Hinduism believes that there is a self and Buddhism doesn't. And anyway, this video that I was watching was this guy explaining that the Buddha actually never talked about no self. And I kind of posited a question to our friend, and I was like, if there's no self, like, how does one recognize that one has become enlightened and reached that state of no self if there's no self to do the recognition? So like, if you like sort of dissolve the self completely, how would you know the process was complete and that you even did it? Because there would be no self to recognize it. But apparently but according to this video, which kind of I thought was really interesting, was we just didn't have an English word for the Sanskrit word that the Buddha was trying to use. And what he was really trying to say was not that there was no self, but that you become aware of like a more expansive self that is not the same self that your like ego is.
Well, I think it's also like a lot of times we're putting ourselves in front of everything else. But like what you're saying, you recognize its greater self, like, oh, wait. All these other people, all my friends, all my family, this is me too.
Yes.
Right.
And there's a difference. There's like, it's like kind of hard to like tell, I guess, but there's a difference between there not being a self at all and there being a self that might just be more expansive. Like, let's say that I become aware of myself as more, and I'm you, and I'm the
Yeah.
plants and the trees. That's still a self. It's just it's not that like strictly defined self stuck in a body. Um, but they say it was like one of the greatest misinterpretations of the Buddhist thought is because he couldn't really I mean, there wasn't a
It
lot
just
of
wasn't like
English
words for
words
it.
to
Yeah.
describe like this expanded self. So we misinterpret it as him saying, oh, there's no self. So a lot of people who sort of pursue enlightenment and that sort of ego death, it uh it ends up being like a kind of game they're playing with themselves because they're trying to reach this state of no selfhood, but
Yep.
you have to do that from the perspective of having a self. Like
Well, I think there's like another perspective here too to keep in mind, in that it's also, it's not about like dissolving the self. It's about dissolving your focus upon yourself, you know?
yes. Oh, I like
And
that.
it's like, because like a lot of times, you'll like most of the day, you're paying attention to your own thoughts. You're just listening to your self-thought. There's a constant Kevin podcast going on in your head all day long, right?
Literally.
And then it's like you're not even paying attention, and like I'm not singling you out, I'm just using you as an example, but because like clearly
I'm not.
because like so like all day I'm listening to my thoughts, right? Like I'm listening to the Greg podcast 24/7 in my head, and this is, it makes me depressed, right? Because there's no external input, like no one's challenging my own thoughts, right? And I'm not paying attention to what other people are thinking and what they're saying or what's going on outside of my head. And I'm kind of in this closed off, isolated realm, you know.
Right.
So, and that's kind of like your ego will self-inflate.
Oh, definitely. Well, and there's no, if you're not challenging them, you're sort of, you'll just get, you'll, your ego will sort of run away with a belief system. And then soon you find yourself just like, wait, why do I believe I'm worthless again? Like, because there's no challenge, there's not like,
Yeah.
and I would say that most of us don't watch our thoughts. And even for those of us who try like through meditation and stuff, we're still, there's like 50,000 or 70,000 thoughts, I think, that go through our mind every day. So even if you're like a consistent meditator, you're still only catching like, I wouldn't even say 5% of them. I would say, even as a meditator, like the ones that I'm actually aware of passing through my head would be like 3% in a day, which is just crazy to think about all of the stuff that's going behind the scenes that my mind is sort of just accepting undiscriminately. But one thing, I've just been starting to meditate again, and I was just sort of like watching my thoughts the other day, like not doing anything. I wasn't trying to like quiet my mind or anything like that. I was just watching my thoughts, and I was like, I thought I had this thought of how funny it was that these thoughts dictate my life, because 90% of the thoughts that I was witnessing, they they didn't they had no useful information whatsoever. They weren't even about me or about a situation I was in or even people I knew. I remember just like hearing a conversation between like a guy and a girl, and he's like, your shirt's yellow. Like just like the most random thing that is like so unproductive. And I'm like,
Kevin,
I
Kevin, did you have schizophrenia?
maybe, I don't know. But I just realized like, and I mean, I know people talk about this, like meditators talk about like when you start
Yeah.
looking at them, you see kind of how like, wait, we let these things dictate our lives. Like they're completely useless. Not all of them, but they're just
Well, yeah. Well, it's also like, you'll have like all these fake arguments with people. Like you'll like for instance, you'll have an interaction with someone, and then you like walk away from it, And then you start imagining all the other things you could have said instead. Like, oh, I should have said that. I should have,
Yep.
And
I
then
know.
it's like, what are you doing wasting your time like thinking about all this,
Yep. Or I catch myself thinking about the situations that I don't want to happen, uh, more than I'm thinking about
Yeah.
the situations that I do want to happen.
Mhm.
And I think just noticing when we just don't notice like how much energy and um intention we're putting toward the things that like we want to avoid, but we can't
Yeah.
really blame the situation since we're the ones putting all the energy into it.
Well, a common analogy that this podcaster, um, Dr. Chris Ryan, he hosts the Tangentially Speaking podcast. An analogy that he brings up a lot, or at least he, oh shit, Ugh. Or at least he used to, was that a rocket ship going to space uses most of its energy trying to get out of the atmosphere. So like most of its energy is already used before it even gets to space.
Right.
So it's
Well,
like
okay.
a lot of times we'll be thinking about doing something for like years before we actually end up doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then it
Oh, that's
takes
so
like a
true.
split second to do it.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm trying to,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's been
Like
true
breaking
for
up
so
with
many
someone,
things in
for
my life.
instance.
Yeah,
Or,
or just like going to
going to
literally
the
I
gym.
doing my homework. Literally, I'll be thinking it's like I'll be worrying. I would worry about my homework all day instead of just doing it, and then I would have
Yeah.
the audacity to be stressed out doing it last minute when it's like, okay, if I just put like half the energy that I put into worrying
Yep.
about my homework into doing my homework, I would
Yep.
have. Um,
Yeah.
it just, and I truly feel like this is more of a failure of society because, okay, like with every other aspect of our lives, they have a sort of system figured out for us here in the West. Like they'll be like, for your foods, you should have one of each from these food groups or whatever, even if it's like a little bullshit. And you should get exercise and whatever. But like the most important thing that we'll live with for our whole life is our mind. And we don't even have a system that we're
Yeah.
trained with on like how to uh like deal with the contents of that.
Yep.
And it kind of is like insane if you think about it. Like that we weren't given like a basic tutorial. Um I saw the funniest thing the other day. It was like that it related to me completely, but it probably related to a lot of people, which is why it was a viral post. But it was like living life with undiagnosed ADHD, which I was diagnosed, but I mean unmedicated ADHD is like uh you miss the tutorial phase of the game um and you don't even know what game you're playing. It was something like that. So everyone's
Yeah.
like, everyone got the tutorial, but you missed the tutorial and like you don't even know like the goal of the game. And I just sat there for like 5 minutes after reading that because I was like, wait, this like feels so true because I feel like I've been confused since the day I was cognizant of being aware. Like, and I'm like, what is the goal? Like, is there something uh to focus on or is there like something that people are doing so that they know how to focus on these things?
Well, it's
But
like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, I
yeah,
don't even know, like, what's the goal? What's the point?
I
And it's
definitely feel
like,
like I missed the tutorial.
yeah. And there's definitely no instruction manual to life. Or if it is, we all forgot it. So,
Yeah, or they'll say it's the Bible. Have you ever heard that quote that the Bible is this is what I've heard so many Christians say this, so it must be a thing.
yeah.
Uh, basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought that
That's
was
kind of
pretty
like
cool.
what any philosophy is, basically.
Yeah, basic.
You know, like how to, like Buddhism, how to prepare for enlightenment,
Yeah.
Christianity, how to prepare for heaven. Which I mean, more or less, they're the same thing, right? Just in a different context.
Yeah. Uh, Buddhism is pretty impressive though, because like,
Well,
all
yeah,
right,
and
so
like I'm definitely more. I like lean towards the Eastern, Eastern philosophies 100%. Lately I've just been mentioning, like Christianity a lot because it's been one of my biggest critiques in life. Like my
yeah,
biggest like it's a thing that I've been going against a lot in life, which I'm
I
recently starting to actually learn about it. But yeah, go
yeah,
on. Sorry.
I like I'll tell anyone like I love the Bible. I love
Yeah.
many of the allegories in there, and I guess I was lucky to have been Catholic in a sense, because a lot of
Yeah.
people think of Catholic as like the strictest and stuff, which they are to a certain degree. But what I appreciate about my upbringing is they weren't too like obsessed with how literal everything in the Bible was.
Yeah.
Like they
That's what I hear
yeah,
with Catholicism.
they accept that many of these stories were allegory for a greater message,
Yeah.
and that like whether they're literally true is kind of beside the point to a
Yeah.
Catholic.
Yeah.
Besides like the main like the Jesus atonement thing, but like
Yeah.
the rest of it. Whereas many like a Protestant, I think, will insist that it's like all literally true, and and that's why in antiquity, as far as a lot of there was a lot of Catholic scientists who
Yeah.
discovered really great things, because
Mhm.
they didn't take the whole, oh, like God created whatever. And it was actually, I think, a Catholic that discovered
Big
not
Bang Theory,
evolution.
right?
Yeah, the Big Bang Theory, but I think it was a Catholic that discovered not the theory of evolution, obviously, by from um what's his face?
Darwin.
Darwin, but who first discovered, I think, that animals or something like change form, or it was something like that, I believe.
Yep. It was here. Sorry, this isn't what you were saying, but this is Jorge Lemaitre, a Belgian cosmologist and Catholic priest, came up with the first scientific form of the Big Bang Theory.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people are surprised to hear that, but I think
What was this
I
animal
like
theory?
maybe just do like prominent Catholic scientists.
Pascal. Wow, Pascal.
Wasn't he the germ guy?
Copernicus, Galileo, Descartes. What the fuck? Gregor Mendel. Oh, that's probably who you were talking about.
What was he? Uh, was he the germ guy?
German, Czech biologist, meteorologist.
Oh, genetics, father of genetics. Yeah.
Yep, father
So
genetics.
yeah, a lot of people would be surprised. And I've heard the argument that it's like it's obviously just because there wasn't really another option. Like science happened despite religion, not because of it. Which I get
Yeah.
that argument too. But I think Catholicism leaves a lot of room for people to like inquire about the nature of reality, because they don't feel like they're going against God, and to inquire about like the creation.
Well, it's
Um,
also like God is the universe in a way. And if God's not the universe, the universe is at least the creation of God, to the perspective
mhm.
of the Christian or Catholic, right? So in a
Well,
sense, these scientists are learning about the creation of God or learning about what God is by way of scientific thought and reasoning.
mhm. What's
Right.
interesting to me is like Christians. I think it's changing. Like if you ask the average Christian on the street if they believe that God is omnipresent, many of them will
Yeah.
say yes, like they believe God is everywhere. But it's not a Christian. Well, many Christians believe in a separate God, which is interesting because in the Bible, there's that quote where it's like, you lift a rock, the Lord is there. You like make your bed, the Lord is there. So it's like saying God's everywhere.
Yeah.
So it says it right there. And I think it's like what we talked about before, where people have a hard time sort of believing that God can be in its creation, since there's like so many like we consider our life so lowly. Like, oh, we're just these
Yeah.
lowly humans and we do messed up things. So there's no way that God is here in us, or but
Well, it's also like God is here, but so is the tendency towards evil, right?
yeah,
So it's kind of like because a lot of times people will pick things out of the Bible and they'll pick like one thing, but they'll neglect all the other stuff. Whereas like, why can't it be all things? Like, why can't there say like maybe God's everywhere, and that's like one interpretation of God is that God is love, God is everywhere, or God's creation is everywhere, etc., etc. And maybe there's also a God that created the universe.
right.
That's
The two things are not
not the same as the God that is everything.
right. Like it can be within creation, but also transcend it, so that there's like
Yeah.
God isn't just the universe. It's like also beyond the universe, but that doesn't mean it can't be in it. But
Well, it's like, for instance, my hand, right? Is my hand me? My hand is a part of me, but it's not the full picture. Like, you know what I
right,
mean?
exactly. I like to think of I a hand is like where is it? Like this God is here is this, and then all of the people in like manifestations of reality, like all the different humans, we're all just like different emanations. Like if you were to take a laser and shine it through a crystal and it refracts into all these different colors, that's kind of like how I view creation and all of the diverse things in it. It's just we're all the same thing. We're just different emanate or different um things.
So I have to
But
look up something.
it's cool
Here, I
that you're
gotta.
looking into the Bible though, because I didn't know that you didn't like know much about it. But I guess I
Yeah, I've never read it. Can you see my screen?
yeah.
So this is from Ishmael. Um,
Ooh.
let's see. Okay, so have you read Ishmael?
Yeah, for that class with
Okay,
Blankenship.
with Bryce Blankenship.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read this paragraph. And for those of you out there who don't know who Ishmael is, or what Ishmael is, it's a book about this talking gorilla, basically telling this guy how to save the world, more or less. Right. So this is from the perspective of the gorilla. Before long, I too began to ask myself why. Being neurologically far in advance of the tiger, I was able to examine what I meant by the question, at least in a rudimentary way. I remembered a different sort of life, which was, for those who lived it, interesting and pleasant. By contrast, this life, meaning his life in the zoo, was agonizingly boring and never pleasant. Thus, in asking why, I was trying to puzzle out why life should be divided in this way. Half of it interesting and pleasant, and half of it boring and unpleasant. I had no
Mhm.
concept of myself as a captive. It didn't occur to me that anyone was preventing me from having an interesting and pleasant life. When no answer to my question was forthcoming, I began to consider the differences between the two lifestyles. The most fundamental difference was that in Africa, I was a member of a family, of a sort of family that the people of your culture haven't known for thousands of years. If gorillas were capable of such an expression, they would tell you that their family is like a hand, of which they are the fingers. They are
Oh,
fully
wow.
aware of being a family, but are very little aware of being individuals. Here in the zoo, there were other gorillas, but there was no family. 5 severed fingers do not make a hand.
Yes, I love that. I didn't realize that the kind of hand thing was in Ishmael. I really like the part where it says 5 several severed hands do not make, or 5 severed fingers
Yeah.
don't make a hand. Because I
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's
that's
kind of like what we were saying earlier about Buddhism, when like part of dissolving yourself is just connecting your finger to the hand, you know.
right. And to like sort of discover that you're a hand and not a finger is not you saying that
Yeah.
there's no hand or finger, I guess. But I was gonna say what's interesting to me about some Eastern thought, especially Tibetan Buddhism, I think Tibetan Buddhism focuses on this a lot, is like many religions like focus on what to do while you're alive, but
Yep.
the Tibetan system has a whole system of what to do once you're dead.
Yeah.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead, and I mean, who
Yeah, I want to
knows?
read that. The
Hmm.
Tibetan Book of the Dead. I've heard of that.
And they basically map out, and obviously it's, I don't know, like I don't know how much I believe in or not, but they map out all of the different layers of like the afterlife, like the hungry ghost realm, where these are where the souls who are greedy and always hungry sort of coalesce with the other hungry and greedy people. And then there's like the deity realms, and they sort of like mapped it all out. And so when a
So it's
Tibetan,
basically like the Eastern version of the Divine Comedy in
yeah,
a sense.
because the Divine Comedy is the where Dante's Inferno came from, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go on before I rudely
That, and
interrupt
yeah, just, and they do a whole like rite of passage, or like ceremony or whatever. And that's one of the reasons why in Tibetan Buddhism, the like art and practice of lucid dreaming is so important to them, because they believe that the the after death realms are much like a dream. So the more you can navigate that experience that seems so confusing, the better equipped you're going to be for basically choosing your destiny, so you don't just end up in some random like hungry goal realm. But I think it's interesting that a lot of Buddhist practices are not meant for the person to reap the benefits in the one lifetime. They're actually designed for people over like a course of many lifetimes, which is just like,
Yeah.
which is an interesting thing compared to like sort of Western thought, where we expect the benefits to be prevalent like here
Now.
now. Yeah,
I want it now.
I want it now, which is ironic because Buddhism is like the overarching focus is on the now. But
Well, I mean, I'd say actually that a lot of like in Christianity, a lot of focus is given to like going to heaven,
uh-huh,
right? So it's kind of like not necessarily for
it's
that, I
about
guess.
getting there.
Yeah,
And then
getting there.
the sort of Buddhist thought is like uh what to do once you're there,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that
Like
makes sense.
getting there isn't the problem. All you have to do is die to
Yeah.
get to the next, get to
Yep.
where we're going. But what do you do once you're there? So I think it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it'd be so I would really love to like speak to someone who like does seances and stuff and like, like
We
talks
should
to
do
dead
one.
people. Dude, what if we did a podcast with someone who like did stuff like that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if this wants to be in the video, but I have that friend, but we're no longer friends anymore.
Ah,
Remember? Because he's the only person I met in real life that I actually believe can do
yeah.
that. I actually have reached out to a friend of mine who's close to them. And I told them, hey, if this person is not mad at me anymore, tell them to hit me up because I'd like to reconnect with him. And maybe we could do that
Yeah.
that podcast. Do you have anyone that's wait, you don't, huh? You don't have
No.
anyone that's
No. My family's had lots of experiences with ghosts and shit, but
so
not
your
me.
both
I've never
all of
seen
your
one.
grandparents are still around?
Yeah, but oh well, no. I just have one grandma and her husband, but he's not my
But
blood grandpa.
okay, but you didn't know the other ones.
No, I knew all the other ones.
Oh,
The ones on my mom's side died when I was really young, though.
okay. Well,
So
don't tell me anything because you don't
why?
want because if I ever get that friend on there, we don't want me to have any information to tell him so that you'll know if he's.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't because I'd be interested in what he says anyway. But
But I did want to mention something, interesting paranormal experience I had. Just like while we're on the topic. Uh, it so, so this one time I had a dream that this like lady in a white dress came out through the fog in my backyard, and like I was sitting in my parents' kitchen, and she like opens up the slider. It's like this glowing white dress lady or whatever. I couldn't really fully recognize her face, except I knew that she was like, the most beautiful woman on the face of the earth. Like just the total encompassing of beauty. Not like hot or anything, but like beautiful. Kind of like you see her, then it's like, holy shit, that's an angel or something like that. But also
like
like
the elf lady,
terrifying. Yeah.
like the elf
And
lady from Lord of the Rings,
yeah, but she was
the
also like
police lady.
terrifying looking, but her face
Oh,
like terrifying, like she had a power to her, you know. Um so anyway, she opens up the door real quietly and she walks up to me, and then she leans in and kisses me, and I could feel in that moment my soul like coming out of my body.
oh,
Like I felt like I was dying, like I felt like my soul was being evaporated. Then I was like, holy shit. And then I woke up. So I was like, no, I don't want to die. I'm like I woke up, I'm like, oh, holy shit. Like that must be what it's like to die. Like I could feel it in that moment that I was dying. Like I knew I was dying. I was like
I
holy
wonder,
shit.
I wonder if you had your parents find a picture of like all of your grandparents when they were young, and you could maybe see if that woman represents like
No,
one of your grandparents when they're younger. No,
no, I don't think
interesting.
so. I think but the interesting thing is that I was at dinner with my sister and girlfriend and family, and me and my sister and girlfriend were talking, and I was talking about poetry or something. And then she was like, "Oh yeah, I used to recite this poem when I was younger." Like my sister was saying this, she was like, "I used to recite this poem when I was younger, like a nursery rhyme, to keep me calm for whenever I saw the lady in the white dress."
Wait, your sister said that?
Yeah, and then I was like, "Wait, I told you about the
What?
lady in the white dress?" And then she's like, "No." I'm
Oh
like,
my
holy
God.
shit. And it's like we both saw this lady in the white dress. Like I saw her in my dreams, but she saw her in like real life,
Whoa.
like just walking around
Okay.
the backyard.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
But it
So,
turns out that there was this lady who died in our house, like before we moved in there.
oh, now that's creepy. Um, that reminds me of the haunting of the Pike fraternity house story that I have. Did
What?
I?
No,
Okay. So
tell me.
I don't think a lot of people in our fraternity knew about this unless they were there in that original summer that we were all working at the house.
Wait, shit, I
Um,
was there. And
right. So it first started when um we we came to the house after like we all had work in the day or whatever, and Natalie came to us.
Yeah.
And she was like, was anyone here earlier today? And we were like, no, we were all at work. Like not a single one of us was here. And she was like, oh, now that's creepy because I came here to see if anyone was around to hang out. And I kept on hearing footsteps on the top floor, like someone walking.
Yeah.
And I went to go check and there was no one there. And anyway, she started to get scared. So she went to go run out of the house and she heard loud footprints behind her or footsteps. So she literally ran out of the house, she said, in terror. And that was like the first I ever heard of any haunting or whatever. But then when she told that story, Zach was like, wait, one late night here, I was passing by the kitchen and I looked into the kitchen and I saw a lady who looked, she was in like an old style dress and she looked like Native American or Hispanic. And then she was gone. She disappeared. And then after he told that story later on throughout the summer, Matt Bodie, oh, I didn't mean to name him, but Matt,
Okay, I don't think it matters.
Matt said he had seen a black shadowy figure in the corner of the wall
dude,
at different times.
Fucking black shadowy figures are not the move.
Yeah. And he said it was a female energy. Like it had a female, even though he couldn't see that it was female. And I believe another person said that she saw something there after I was telling her these stories. And she said that it was also a Hispanic looking, older generation woman. So what I did, I never saw.
It's like it turns out it's just the housemaid. It's just a fucking
oh my god. Yeah, literally. Anyway, I never like witnessed her or anything if she was around, but I was like, okay, well maybe this place is haunted.
Yeah.
And my experience, but I did have an experience. So I was working on something in the basement for the house and I got a call on my phone. And I obviously had the lights on in the room that I was working. And I got a call on my phone and I went outside. And when I went back in to the room, the lights were off. And I remember sitting there for like a couple minutes because I was like, did I just subconsciously turn off that light? Or was that
subconsciously turn off that light?
Yeah, I was like, would I have just done that like on my way out?
I get it. Yeah.
And so anyway, I was starting to believe that maybe there was a haunting going on or whatever. And so what I would do when no one was around and I was scared to be in the Pike House alone, I would play music for the ghost. And I would try to talk to the ghost. I to try to be friends with it so that it didn't like fuck me up. Because I was like, so I would like put on some Lana Del Rey in my room and I'd be like, okay, listen, if you're like around, like here's the kind of music I listen to. Like I'm not trying to have you fuck me up. Like I swear to God, if you appear like while I'm taking a piss at night, like I will shit my pants. So like don't do anything like that. And I was just trying to like build a rapport with this ghost that I didn't even know if it existed or not. But that's the story. Is a lot of people were coming out with different stories, and whenever they described it, they said it was a female. But here's the weird part of the story, okay? You can take this with a grain of salt. You don't have to post this part.
Right.
But
I will.
When I was doing when we were starting to figure out that my friend from my hometown could sort of do crazy things, potentially see things that were not there, I was like, so there's been word in my fraternity that there is like a haunting of some sort. Can you go check it out? I'm not going to tell you anything about what they've been saying. I just want you to check it out and tell me if you see it. So that night he went to bed and visited the Pike House, and he described a darker skinned lady, like Hispanic, Native American, in an old style dress. And the part he said next was so creepy to me that when he saw her, she was climbing on the roof. Just fucking scary. Like she just crawled
That's
on the roof,
creepy.
and that was that. So that was kind of the confirmation for me, because I didn't
Yeah.
tell him anything about their descriptors of her. But on
Dude,
the other
thinking
hand,
about that creeps me out. Just her
oh
crawling on the
no,
roof.
but
Fuck.
the thing is that when my friend had this experience, he wasn't scared of her at all. She looked more like she was distressed.
Yeah.
And if we think about maybe like if ghosts do exist and they're sort of hanging around here, it's probably because they're like attached to some kind of emotion that they can't let go of. So they're usually going to be distressed or whatever. But that was that. But actually, after I did my singing thing, where I sang and talked to the ghost, no one else reported us like seeing her or anything for months after that.
Wow.
So I wonder if I did like a little exorcism on accident, because I was like you can move on. I'm totally just talking to myself, and I was like, you can move on. You don't have to hold on to this no more.
Dude, yeah, no, I'll do that. Like whenever I'm like scared, like when it's nighttime or it's like dark out and I'm alone, like I'll say some shit. I'll be like, hey, if there's anyone here, just know that I am no threat, and please
Like,
don't hurt me.
are you talking like to like people who are there, or like if there's like a ghost there?
All the above.
All of the above, yeah.
Yeah.
A word of advice that I got was like, if you're ever worried about like a ghost or whatever, just say may peace be with you.
Okay.
I was like, that's good advice, because it
Yeah.
gets you, yeah,
Keep it
may peace
simple.
be with you. Yeah. Peace be
May
with
the
you.
force be with you.
Yeah. That's the thing that we do in Catholic Church, where like at a certain point you turn to the people around you and you just say peace be with you.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it would work for ghosts too. Like if they're like in this negative vibe and you say peace be with you, maybe they,
Yeah.
go away. I don't know.
I've never really had a paranormal experience. Like that one was a dream, so it's kind of different.
But it is
Um,
paranormal because of your sister sort
Yeah,
of
because of what
described.
my sister saw, then it made it paranormal after that. And also
Yeah.
the fact that it seemed like she was like killing me, or not killing me, but taking my soul.
She was, yeah, I wonder why she felt the need to do that.
Yeah, then like you look into like Lady in the White Dress, and it's a very common thing to see.
Yeah,
like in dreams and ghosts.
That's what I was gonna say as part of my thing, is
Lady
like
in the
it
White
is kind of
Dress.
it is pretty convenient that when everyone tends to describe a ghost, it's always like Lorena from the Mexican myth. It's always like some crying lady. So there could be an aspect of what's it called? Jung's collective unconscious, where we all just have this idea of a lady in a white
Yeah.
dress.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like so many people see it. A lot of times they show, like in the TV show Supernatural, they say that the lady in the white dress shows up to like basically scare unfaithful men, or like kill unfaithful men or whatever, haunt
Ooh,
them.
I like that.
So that's like an interesting thing. I mean, obviously I was too young for that to happen. My sister was seeing her and everything, so I think it's
I'll
different
tell
in
you.
that regard. But
Do you want to hear my? It's like my most vivid
go for it.
paranormal ghost story. Because like the fraternity one was like I didn't really experience it,
Yeah.
But the scariest sort of ghost story that I experienced was I would oftentimes have babysitters growing up, because my mom would work so late, and they would oftentimes like fall asleep at my house because my mom would get home so late. So one time, me and my babysitter, we fell asleep to a movie we were watching, and I woke up at around like 2 or 3 a.m. and she was missing from the room. And I remember she fell asleep before me. So when I woke up, I was like, well, where is she?
Yeah.
And she would oftentimes use my computer in the basement so that she can like check MySpace and stuff in like social media at the time. And I went to approach the downstairs because I was like, she's probably on MySpace. And as I was going down the steps, I could hear very loudly her typing, like, and it was an actual old keyboard, so you could hear every key.
Yeah.
And she was typing, and you know, like when a door is open, you can see between it.
Oh, and this was like one of those desktop computers. That's why I was in the basement. It wasn't a laptop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a desktop. And
yeah.
And so as I'm rounding the door, I can see through the crack of the door. I see her sitting there typing.
Yep.
And I round the door, and I remember literally my jaw dropping because there was no one there. She
Holy
wasn't
shit.
there at all. And the computer was off. And I was like, holy shit. And I ran upstairs to my bedroom, and there she was asleep. And I woke her up in terror. And I was like, oh my God, like this is what happened. And she was like, no, I've been sleeping here. She just decided to go to sleep in my room for some reason. But yeah, it was like the scariest, most vivid experience I ever had. Because I remember hearing the typing. Like, I was like, did I hallucinate this? But yeah.
Dude, yeah, that'd be creepy. Yeah, I've never had anything like that happen to me before. Or like seen any weird things, like a ghost or anything. Maybe I'm just blind to the paranormal. Like maybe some people just can't see anything paranormal.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever thought about that?
No, and I've never seen anything.
Yeah.
And actually,
like it's like a Sixth Sense, right? Like that movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Like I never saw the apparent haunting at Pike, so I think my inner eye is blind. We did too many drugs. I'm just kidding. Usually those open up the inner eye, but not for me.
Sometimes they close it off.
It's the fluoride in the water. Calcifies your pineal gland, they say. Closes your inner eye.
Is that an actual conspiracy?
Yeah, that they intentionally put fluoride in a lot of products. I think they know, like, it's a scientific fact that fluoride does calcify the pineal gland, but the conspiracy is that they do that on purpose, because the pineal gland is responsible for like prophetic dreams and blah 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 blah. So they don't want people having those.
Shoot, I gotta stop taking fluoride.